Okay, so I was in the middle of Bass Strait and the winds got up to 28 knots and the boat suddenly felt tiny and I felt minuscule and insignificant, but also utterly exhilarated. How did I get here? And I couldn't help thinking that had something to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. Needle drop!
Okay, so it should be reasonably clear what I did there. In Hollywoodese, it's called a grabber. It's where you take the emotional climax of your story or denouement and put it right at the beginning to grab your audience.
Thanks for playing.
It's a pretty shop-worn old cliche, but hell, you could argue it's cookie-cutter screen structure, but it worked for David Fincher in Fight Club. Billy Wilder did it in Sunset Boulevard. Hell, even Shakespeare did it. Remember the star-crossed lovers being the 2-hour traffic of our stage? So yeah, fine, it's pretty lazy, journeyman derivative storytelling technique, but in my defence, it did start with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Most of the pandemic was the same for me as it was for pretty much everybody else in the world's most livable and lockdown city. I sanitised my hands about 160 times a day. I did rat tests. I wore a mask. I learned how to bake sourdough. I kept 1.5 metres away from everybody. I redecorated the home office. And just like everybody else, I watched Tiger King. I watched The Mayor of Easttown. I bought a hoodie on eBay. And I watched Queen's Gambit.
Chess is hard.
And then I ran out of Netflix and went downstairs and surfed the internet. I doom scrolled through all the socials and then I went down some pretty weird rabbit holes. I started looking for motor scooters on eBay and Gumtree. I had arguments in chat rooms with flat earthers and people that thought the moon landings were faked and that September 11 was a CIA false flag operation. I visited the websites of budget hair transplant surgery clinics in Turkey and Malaysia, but bought a beret instead. And then my mum died and then my dad died and their funerals were a Zoom conference. But that still had the effect of reminding me of my own mortality, so I started reading about philosophy and psychology because obviously I was suffering a midlife crisis. Not on an Eckhart Tolle scale, but it was still pretty problematic. Eckhart was a little bit airy-fairy for me, and that right-wing Canadian Jordan Peterson didn't help much either. I like the Stoics, but Carl Jung really resonated with me. That guy really knows how to call your bluff. He says that individuals have to create their own meaning and purpose in life rather than rely on a set of externally imported values. That described my position in a nutshell, and in a later Zoom call, he broke it down for me.
What, Matthew, did you do as a child that made the hours pass like the minutes?
Well, the two things I loved the most as a kid, Carl, were movies and sailing, but I gave up sailing so I could develop a career in film and television.
How did that go?
Pretty well. I mean, I won some awards and stuff.
Well, then make your movies and your television show.
Yeah, but dude, there's a pandemic going on at the moment.
I know that.
Production shut down.
So what?
And even without all of that, my career was in the toilet, so...
What was the second one again you liked?
What?
What was the second one again? The first one was movies.
Sailing.
Well, just do the sailing then.
Yeah, okay, I'll try that then. I did love sailing and I actually got pretty good at it. I was state junior champion in 1983 and came third in the cadet national titles that year, and then went on to sail fireballs and lightweight sharpies and then offshore racing, and even did 1.5 Sydney Hobarts. But then I went to art school and had a brief lacklustre career in advertising. Then I went to film school and started making films and television shows. And then I got married and had kids and a mortgage, and all that happened. And then the pandemic did. And then my midlife crisis did. And then that Carl Jung earlier, which led me back to the internet. But this time I avoided all the social media and all the weird chat rooms for conspiracy theorists and incels and trolls, and instead saw out the rest of the pandemic looking for boats online. Boatsales.com.au and Yacht Hub were my preferred sites to visit. One of the great things about spending your time online and only looking for boats is it really tidies up your search history. Nothing to be ashamed of there. Quite like the idea of being a gentleman yachtsman in my dotage, the semi-retirement, so a boat about 30 to 35 foot was what I was on the hunt for. I consulted my deck of oblique strategies cards quite often, and Brian Eno advised me that I should look for a boat that was small enough for me to handle solo or single-handed, but long enough to do longer passages.
Given my age, boat speed wasn't a priority.
You know, a cruising boat. Something with a decent but not ostentatious sail wardrobe. Yeah, something old school. Thanks, Brian Eno. The Sparkman and Stevens S&S 34 met the brief beautifully, but these bad boys hold their value understandably and can get a bit pricey. Ooh boy. The more I searched, the more I got interested in classic timber boats. I mean, first of all, there's the romance of them. The classic design, almost by definition, means a long keel, which is great for going in a straight line, and that's heaps good for short-handed sailing. And they're a lot prettier, even though there's a lot more upkeep involved. The problem with having this growing list of preferences and criteria was that the number of boats that were advertised for sale online and met all of that criteria were getting few and far between or out of my price range. Jesus!
Things got very weird and meta when I started filming myself searching the internet for boats advertised for sale and then editing that footage into a potential web series or YouTube channel that I could then use to monetize the purchase of the boat I was on the internet looking for in the first place.
Mate, I'm not sure about this. Mate, what could possibly go wrong? This is bulletproof. And clean up your bloody desktop. It looks like a Jackson Pollock in here. All right.
This went on for months, and in that time I also switched out my reading diet for exclusively maritime themed work and also freshened up my wardrobe. My wife said this all seems to have a cosplay element to it, and I said, yes, Bri.
Yes, bro.
There's costuming involved. So she brought me a nice Brereton shirt for my birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, and a book. When 2023 rolled around, I'd already fondled every crevice of the internet's boating websites and I was beginning to get disheartened. I was actually reconsidering that trip to Turkey. And then I found a classic masthead sloop built in 1950 but meticulously maintained, currently berthed in Hobart, 33-foot length overall, 28 at the waterline or thereabouts, long keel, 3 berths, manual head, you know, a simple setup, unfussy, diesel engine, and best of all, pretty much in my price range. And I like the name, Peter Robin. Time to make a phone call.
Oh, g'day. Is that Jeff? Hi. My name's Matt Saville. Listen, mate, I'm suffering a midlife crisis at the moment, and I'm just inquiring about the boat you have advertised. Great. Where are you situated?
And then it was time to get my ass down to Hobart.
Slip the life jacket over your head.
It was nice to get out of the house phone.
Around your waist, and clip the two ends together.
Figures for leaving us via the rear door as you'll be disembarking onto the tarmac.
Next time on Peter Robin, we meet her owner, Jeff Murray, who takes me out for a spin on the Derwent River, and I fall in love with her almost instantly. But before I make an offer, I get local shipwright Malcolm McDougall to give her the once-over and have a look at her bottom to see if she's a lemon.
The thing I want to look at for you is try and find if there's any delamination of any of the... because she's being epoxy sheet.
Ah, the tension's killing me. Like and subscribe and everything, will you? Thanks.